That's the link.
Hi, Francesca.
Hi, Theo.
That's okay.
Tell your camera's off again.
No, what's happening?
Yeah,
Okay.
now you're back.
Yeah. Okay.
I will not touch anything, promised.
All right. So we are live. We are live and we are good to go. So I Manish, hi Francesca, hi Till. Great to
Hi.
have you here. And welcome to every other person in the MicroDAO ecosystem, in the AMR ecosystem, whether you're a scientific researcher, an enthusiast, a Web3 enthusiast, a Web2 enthusiast, a patient from whatever sphere of life you are joining us from. And this is MicroDAO celebrating the World AMR Week, the World AMR Week, which is the Antimicrobial Resistance Awareness Week, which WHO, the World Health Organization, organizes every year. This week, we started the week on November 14th, and then we are ending it or wrapping it up tomorrow. We have a lot of programs that we had planned out for this week. We had like a if you're on our X and you're on LinkedIn, you see a lot of things that we had planned out, like Go Blue for AMR, where we had everybody just go blue. And we also had patient stories, interesting stories about HIV survivors and people dealing with lung cancer, and the AMR, um, how they had to battle through AMR and the struggles and challenges they had. And today, I am here with three experts in the field, and we also have one other expert join us. We have Manish Paul. I'm going to pull up his bio so that you can know everything about them. These are incredible people doing great things in the AMR space, and they have tons and tons of experience, decades, combined decades of experience in the AMR space, and it will be quite interesting having interesting conversations with them. I'm just going to read a little bit of their bio so that you know a little more about them, and you can connect with them on LinkedIn, on Blue Sky, and yeah. So we have Manish Paul, Dr. Manish Paul. He is a pioneer in AMR diagnostics and anti-infective R&D research and development. Dr. Manish co-invented enmetazobactam at Orchid Pharma. Okay, I got it right. Yeah, the first molecule from India to achieve global approval, and has led other impactful efforts across major global health organizations. This is a conversation like you don't want to miss. You don't want to miss a conversation with Dr. Manish. Then we also have our very own professor, Professor Till Bachman, and he is a leading expert in point of care detection of infectious diseases and antimicrobial resistance. His work sits at the intersection of biomarkers and next generation detection technologies. He also serves in multiple industrial and institutional advisory roles around the world, shaping the future of diagnostic innovation. This will be I promise it to be an insightful session because he had a couple of things that he actually wanted to discuss that we definitely had to put in. And we also have our very own Francesca. Francesca brings 10 plus years of experience in antimicrobial um, resistance and policy advocacy. So it's a different knowledge, different scope that she will bring into us. She has managed research portfolios, and forged high impact collaborations with leading international organizations. She applies an interdisciplinary approach to AMR governance, health system strengthening, and access to medicine. So, and then we also have Varun, Dr. Varun also joining us. Dr. Varun is the founder of MicroDAO, is a leading expert in point of care detection of infectious diseases and antimicrobial resistance. His work sits at the intersection of biomarkers and next generation detection technologies. He also serves in multiple industrial and institutional advisory roles around the world, shaping the future of diagnostic innovation. So, Varun is the founder of MicroDAO and is a life science product specialist. He will be joining us soon, and hopefully, we have great discussions with everyone in here. So, this is going to be an interesting one. I'm already excited for this. So I believe we can start with Theo, Professor. So just for new people in the space, people that don't understand, because we are trying to broadcast to everybody that don't understand what AMR is. Can you, based off your knowledge and everything you've dealt with in the AMR scene, can you just give us a little bit of description about what we are actually talking about when we say what is AMR?
Okay, thank you so much, Aguda. Yeah, and really nice to be here. It's a big honor and pleasure to do that because it's World Antibiotic Awareness Week, and we have so many activities really to talk about antimicrobial resistance as a global health threat. It's a serious issue, and what is it? Antimicrobial resistance. So antimicrobial resistance, microbial. So what are microbes? These are bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. And all these, they can infect people. They can infect plants, they can infect animals, but there are really these microbes. So pathogens, microbes are bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Now, what is resistance? So the resistance or antimicrobial resistance then is then when the drugs which we use to treat these infections don't work anymore. The bacteria or the other pathogens, they become resistant against them. So the drugs don't work on them anymore. So patients or the patients cannot be cured in the same way as we would desire it to be. How do bacteria do this? Or let's say talk about bacteria, because it's the biggest challenge really are bacteria is bacteria can't, the antibiotics need to get into the bacteria to be active. So the bacteria can prevent them from coming in. The bacteria can, once they are in, the bacteria can quickly pump them out again, or they degrade the antibiotics when they come in. So or they change the targets the antibiotics are meant to inhibit or destroy in the bacteria, or they can simply modify the target and make more of them. So the bacteria have many ways of becoming resistant against these drugs. So do the other pathogens. That's AMR in
Yeah.
a nutshell.
Yeah. In a nutshell, I know if we were to speak on AMR, we can continue for hours, but thank you for a good summary about AMR. And I think it's quite understandable about, and it's insane to think about people having to suffer from infections or diseases which they feel are curable, and suddenly the same drugs and solutions that you were using initially can't cure them. Thank you, Varun, for joining us. This is the founder of MicroDAO. And Varun, great to have you here. In continuation of this conversation, Manish, I want to throw sort of like a question to you, and sort of a little bit of personality in the question about how did AMR first become real to you, like personally? Because I've had in a patient story, we've had like conversations and discussions where people they were like, oh, they were experiencing this particular challenge, and suddenly they found out that oh, this solution isn't working, and they later found out about AMR. Another conversation I've had with Varun and Francesca about how AMR actually became real to them and understanding the concept of AMR. So, from a personal point of view, how did AMR actually become personal and real to you, Manish?
Mm. Thank you, Aguda. Nice to see you,
Yeah.
Varun. So, in fact, my passion in microbiology was kindled, like many scientists in microbiology, very young in age. When I was 13 years old in 1982, in a village called Gulbarga in southern Karnataka, right? It's in India. So my teacher Priscilla was teaching the biography of Louis Pasteur, and I was fascinated with the fact that there is an invisible world in front of my eyes and I can't see. So microbiology became very fascinating to me, and I sought the permission of my teacher to let me spend my time in the lab looking under the microscope rather than go for my sports period. So she was very happy to do that. So that helped me to explore the world of microbes under the microscope. And I wanted to be a scientist at some day in my life and be an inventor. That was my dream since childhood. It was only in 2006 when I came back to India from US, where I was working at US FDA, and I joined Orchid Pharma. My journey began in the world of AMR. In fact, we were working already on several class of molecules to fight antimicrobial resistance at Orchid. One was oxazolinone class of molecules like linezolid or cephalosporins and serine beta lactamase inhibitors, beta lactamase inhibitors, and HDAC antifungal. So these were five classes of molecules we are working on. And my interest went quite deeper into the subject to understand how microbes were strategizing to beat every antibiotic that we could invent. Then we realized that, okay, microbes know almost all the structures that exist on this earth because they are billions of years older than us. And that led us to think of working, or rather putting more efforts into the serine beta lactamase inhibitors, because now we are not directly attacking the bacteria here. We are going to attack uh, the defense mechanism of the bacteria, which is the beta lactamases. And that way, bacteria would continue to work with the older antibiotics, the beta lactam class of molecules, while we go on eliminating or handling the enzyme part of it, so that bacteria are a little confused there to a certain extent. They think I produced the enzyme to beat this antibiotic, but before it could think, we are striking it with cefepime. So that was the birth of N-metazobactam, which has now been approved by, I mean, US FDA, being the first ever 100% Indian invention. So that's a proud moment for the country. At the same time, it is solving a major problem of extended spectrum beta lactamase based infections. So that's in a nutshell of how it became personal, from ideation of the microbiology itself till we're finding a solution. That's my personal journey. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Manish. Thank you for that explanation. A lot of big words were used there, and we need to
Really?
simplify. Yeah, yeah. It's majorly about, okay, and this is a question that will actually flow into Francesca, because speaking about now the misconceptions as regards AMR, because AMR is not regarded as such a large topic in regards to other ongoing challenges in the it is a very big discussion that we actually need to initiate and continue, being that people don't actually understand that, okay, there's an AMR challenge even when they're personally experiencing them. Like, you might be using the same drug or using the same methods that you have been using to treat yourself, and suddenly it doesn't work, and you don't understand that, okay, this is an AMR challenge, but you are not familiar with the words or the terminologies that helps you explain the issues that you are facing. So more about understanding the misconceptions about most people have about AMR, probably the challenges, the risk, and general things that you've heard people say about AMR, which might not actually be true or real. Francesca, can you please explain this to us?
Yes, yeah, and thank you, Guda, for the very kind introduction at the beginning. So I think we need to take a step back because, of course, here we are all very technical people, and when we speak and we think about antimicrobial resistance, it's very easy for us to understand what we are talking about. But then, of course, at the community level, there is a huge difference. Not everyone comes from a science background, And so I think the way also the scientific community has been approaching the communication of the issue out there is potentially, could be improved, and it's not been done in the right way, because just using the term antimicrobial resistance, it's a term that is extremely difficult to understand. And I think the most common misconception that I have seen through my work in the community has been people thinking that they are actually developing resistance to the antibiotic. So it's their body that doesn't respond to the antibiotic rather than the bacteria themselves acquiring resistance. Um, and also, ad- there are other issues as well, as with thinking that antibiotics can be used to treat also viral infections. That of course is not the case. And so this is just to say that we really need to work on the way we communicate complex science to community members. And this is by using different terminology or by explaining better these difficult concepts. But again, here we are talking about a very, very complex issue. And I think the complexity arises from the fact that it doesn't involve only human health, but it also spreads across other domains like the animal health, but also the environment. And that's when the complexity arises. And that's where it becomes very difficult to explain this concept, um, so that it's easily understandable from everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Francesca, for throwing more light on that. And this actually, another thing I want to speak on, or this is throwing this question out to Varun, um, more about the funding model. Now, it's important to understand that yes, for every single thing that we are doing, it has a substantial, or it requires substantial, especially when it comes to scientific research, where and I've seen in scenarios where research doesn't necessarily lead to the products immediately, which big pharmaceuticals are trying to chase. Like, oh, you might be doing research for a couple of years, and it leads to the solution, which leads to the solution. If you understand what I mean. So, majorly speaking, from your background in AMR, what are the current AMR funding models, and how are they failing most strongly? Probably in the development phase, in the distribution phase, or is there any oversight that farmers are not paying attention to when it comes to AMR research funding and funding generally for AMR issues? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aguda. Really nice to be here. Just to address your question, I think problem with funding stems also from the challenge that when we talk about antimicrobial resistance, you actually want to deliver antimicrobials only when they are needed and in the for the right pathogen, you want to deliver the right antimicrobial. But what tends to happen is there is indiscriminate use, which means there's an overexposure of these antimicrobials, which increases the resistance. Now, this also affects the business model around how these antimicrobials are developed, because what you would spend a couple of billions of dollars to develop new anti-infectives or antimicrobials would often result in, yes, you do develop new medicines, but at the same time, you do not want to sell them indiscriminately, or you want to only sell these into the market only when these antimicrobials are needed, and this causes this limitation to the business model, which often is a challenge for pharma to be able to recuperate the costs involved in developing antimicrobial. Core problem when it which also access to a lot of funding in the space. So if you now go back to thinking
Okay. Varun, I think we lost you. Okay, okay. While Varun tries to reconnect and tries to join us, a reminder that we are streaming live on YouTube. So if you have any questions, you can always add it into the comments and we go over this briefly um, at the towards the end of the call. Okay, Varun is trying to join back. Okay, yeah, Varun, are you there?
Apologies. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, 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 we can.
Oh, perfect. Apologies. I have a bit of a network issue here. Uh, to come back to what I was saying, I think the main sources of funding today are grants and governments investing in supporting new anti-infectives, and at the same time, you have philanthropic organizations supporting the development of new antimicrobials at different stages. But they face the challenge of long-term sustainable source of funding, and that's only if you want to then allow for the market to do it, there is also limitations there because of the business model here, where you don't want to oversell the antimicrobials and only sell them when they're appropriate. So this causes the funding challenge, and this causes a need for new ways of long-term sustainable funding to tackle antimicrobial resistance and create new interventions that are needed.
Yeah, yeah. Key thing I talked about, that I touched on is the business model as regards how difficult it is to maybe to structure a business model around funding a particular research. So, are there any possible newer methods that we can also apply in terms of chasing funding for um, this research, for AMR research, a newer method or probably a newer way where we could actually say, okay, we could actually get funds for research instead of having to go through the traditional methods.
I think this is where Agoda, we are trying a different approach here at MicroDAO. Our goal here is to decentralize the source of funding by diversifying who can fund these projects and open it up for the wider community to be able to uh, generate that decentralized source of funding for then backing projects, which then go on to creating new vaccines or diagnostics and antimicrobials. So at least what we are aiming to do here with MicroDAO is bring in mechanisms from Web3 to create tokenized governance models and access to funding. And at the same time, we are creating a collection of products and tools which will accelerate R&D to develop the new diagnostics and vaccines and antimicrobials. So with these, what we want to do is these tools that we put together would then create a source of revenue, which then funds the treasury along with the Web3 mechanisms that funds the treasury through creating tokens and trading those tokens. And then this pool goes into then backing researchers who need access to funding to develop new vaccines and diagnostics. There are other mechanisms that we are also exploring, which involves crowdsourced experimental funding, which could allow developers to come in at different stages, uh, right from early stages where you have some in silico candidates to performing some initial screening experiments to those who may come in a bit later on. So we are creating pathways for them to access funding again with the crowd, with the benefit of the mechanisms that Web3 offers, and again letting more people come into the picture to then engage with the problem of AMR, learn about it, but also be part of the solution. And this, I think, is a unique approach that we are trying at MicroDAO.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is actually a unique approach to how we can access funding in the scientific sphere. This side, for everyone that is watching, means decentralized science, and it's a novel approach using blockchain and different newer funding models called decentralized funding models, where funding is not centralized across one organization and it's sort of like everybody playing their part in funding, inculcates not just Web2 folks, but also, or not just Web3 folks, but also the Web2 folks, the general scientific industry, the patients, the customers, even I personally, as a someone who is not so scientifically inclined, could also participate in decentralized science and DeSci funding, which MicroDAO is actually trying to achieve. So speaking more from the community perspective about DeSci and MicroDAO's approach in terms of funding and creating new, better and newer solutions for the AMR issue which we are currently facing. So how can ordinary people, not just scientists, because we spoke a lot about the scientific sphere and how MicroDAO actually affects scientists. So how can ordinary people, what parts do they get to play and potential benefits for them playing this part? You mentioned a little bit about IP tokens and IP NFTs. So can you please explain or throw more light on that subject?
Absolutely, Aguda. And there are a few ways we are trying to enable the community to get involved in this. We are creating tools, for example, a pathogen catalog, which gives the wider community an insight at the pathogen level. What are the pathogens which are facing the challenge of resistance and the absence of good antimicrobials as solutions? Alongside that, we are also empowering through the catalog clear information about what is the economic impact and what is the current state of the pipeline developing these new uh, antimicrobials for different pathogens. With this, we are trying to offer these at a level that a general community member would be able to understand the problem more. In addition to that, we are creating content around the pathogens and about this more broad, which not only would help the scientists but also from the community and the general audience, gives them a very clear insight and understanding of the problem that is. So once they do that, we have the next set of tools which allows them to then get involved in the process of funding the development of some of these IP projects. So for example, if a researcher is developing new vaccine and they want to raise funding for the project and reach the next set of milestones, they can talk about their project. They can use our forums to then describe what they're trying to achieve. And then if you are part of the MicroDAO community as a token holder, which is something that anybody can purchase access to, you can then also participate in reviewing these proposals and also giving feedback and also engaging in funding these projects. There is always the involvement of experts who are reviewing and also giving you advice, but then there is also this aspect where, as a general member of the audience or a patient group who is affected by this problem, you have the ability to then support projects through the tokens that you purchase via the MicroDAO platform. Beyond that, I think we are also continually talking to the audience, and we have regular posts on Substack where we talk about AMR and the different facets to it, which is another way we are making your general lay audience understand the problem of AMR, and then creating those connection points across our forums and community channels where they can then engage on the problem and then provide inputs and feedback and be part of the change, basically.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. That's incredible work that MicroDAO is doing. One more thing, you mentioned a little bit about products that you are actually building, apart from funding research directly or funding scientists that actually want to do research or want to build products that help with AMR. You mentioned that MicroDAO are actually building products. So can you shed a little bit more light on products that you are building or what to expect from MicroDAO as regards your product line?
Thanks, Aguda. There are quite a few things. I can talk about a couple, but there are a couple of different projects that we are working on. We've The first one that I already mentioned is this pathogen catalog, which is currently in internal testing. We are very soon expecting to roll out a beta launch for this. Now, with the pathogen catalog, as I said, you have detailed insights at the pathogen level. The next tool that we are building is an AI agent supported research platform, which allows the community to come together and carry out their research with the support of the AMR specific AI agent that we are building. And leveraging the help of this, the platform will enable the community to create a collective knowledge graph, which we expect would work greatly with the agent to support researchers to accelerate their research. and then not only benefit individual researchers, but as a community, hold the source of common collective knowledge graph, which we think will be a significant force multiplier for how we then tackle AMR and accelerate research into different interventions that you would want to develop under the pillars of preventing occurrence of resistance, predicting the occurrence of resistance, and curing the occurrence of resistance, which are the three pillars for MicroDAO. In addition to this, we are also working on a crowd-funded lab experiment platform where the community or the crowd can fund experiments. But that's something that we will share a bit more in the future. Uh,
All right, awesome, awesome, Baron. I understand that you need to run now because you have another place to be. But thank you very much. If we need more information about MicroDAO, we can always check in with the website microdao.bio, and we have a Telegram. We also have an X channel where you can always reach out to us. Baron, once again, thank you for your time, and hopefully we see you at the next live stream. But we won't wait so long until the next year. Probably organize something, and we'll see you there sooner. Thank you, Varun, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Agudo, and thank you.